Just us. Oh, okay. Ready to start?
Yeah,
All
ready.
right.
Oh, I don't have to. I don't have to call roll. I forget. I can get I can't stay in my lane. Sorry.
We'll now open the Estacada Urban Renewal Agency meeting. We'll call it to order. So can I have a roll call, please?
Director Dunsmuir, Director Gates, Director Hughes.
Here.
Director Leakey.
Here.
Director Strobel.
Here.
Director Tenbush.
Here.
And Chair
Here, thank you. We have the first citizen and community group comment, seeing as we have nobody in the audience. I will move along to the consent agenda. Do I have a motion to accept the consent agenda?
I move to approve the consent agenda.
Yeah, I have a first on the floor. I have a second.
Second.
First and second. All those in favor say aye.
Aye.
All those opposed? Consent agenda passes. Thank you very much for that. Agency business. I will hand this over to Melanie.
Okay, thank you. I just wanted to call a short meeting. So thank you for coming early tonight to talk about this. Because the last time that we had talked about the Main Street project, where we left it at was you were wanting to get some confirmation on the timeline and public outreach, a plan for public outreach and the timeline for the project. And so my goals for tonight are to confirm the timeline that I've talked with Kurt, our engineer, about it. And so I want to confirm that that's still okay with you. And then also just kind of find out how involved that you would like to be with the public outreach. Usually staff kind of just handles that and you're always invited and welcome to come and attend. But I thought maybe on this particular project, there might be a couple of Main Street champions that want to be more involved, maybe want to help with doing some outreach to the stakeholders that are on the street. I thought about hand delivering some information about the project upcoming and just let them know that we want them to be involved. We want feedback from them. And if any of you want to do some of that with me. And then if we have an open house, I'm kind of picturing, our standard open house where we have the boards in here that people can look at and they can give us feedback. I'll kind of go through the plan and what Kurt thought that they could give us feedback on, that we could keep it or leave it, set it aside if people aren't that interested in it or don't think it's a good idea. So I kind of see that going on in here, but I also think we could do little tours and say, this is, if somebody wants to be, take a small group of community members and walk the street and say, okay, this is where we're thinking about the diagonal parking and this is how it would look. This is where, do you want the circle in the pavement like over on Broadway, or do we want to just keep it more plain? And this is, just to kind of, it'd be pretty easy to do a little loop and just kind of get people out there and looking around and thinking about what's a good priority to make sure is in this plan versus just obviously the road needs to be repaved and we need new sidewalks, but how can we, while we're doing it, make it a quality project that really includes Broadway in the whole downtown feel, not just I just have to get through town. So it includes Main Street. So those are kind of things that I'm thinking about and would like some feedback on. And so quickly before I get into the timeline, I wanted to also just bring up, I was asked previously about if there was any actual accidents caused by the narrowness of we did the traffic calming, narrower streets, wider sidewalks, kind of more of a plaza feel on Broadway. And so I got some feedback from Chief Mendoza about that. He said it would be difficult to see if any of these were actually related to roadway changes and engineering without pulling up all the reports and kind of looking into that. But I thought I'd just give you a quick summary. So there were 15 accidents between June of 2015 and January of 2021. And I'm not sure if there was no accidents after that or if that's just as far as he went. But of those 15, 5 of them were at 224 in Broadway. So probably safe to say not related to changes on Broadway. And then there was 1, 2, I thought I had these lined out. Three of them were at intersections. There was one at 2nd and Broadway, one at 3rd and Broadway, and one at 4th at Broadway. And so those were probably, I don't know, it's hard to tell if that was because of the way they were turning or what, but those were actually at intersections. Yeah, Councilor Litkey or Director Litkey.
When they do police reports, they always have to use intersections, even if they're in the midway
Even
block.
if it's close.
Even if it's in the midway block, they'd use intersections for
True.
it.
So it was closer, I guess, than to.
Yeah. That's
So yeah, that's hard to tell. There was 3 of them that were listed at 280 South Broadway, which is the grocery store. So could have something with the volume of the traffic. And then there was 4 other ones that were just kind of randomly throughout the street. So there have been some accidents. It's hard to tell, if it was because of the calming, but there was nothing that really stood out. Like there's always an accident right here or something, except for 224. That seemed to be the one that stood out. So anyway, and there was, most of them were like a no injury accident. Probably slow traffic is helpful to that. But anyway, I just wanted to share that. But Main Street is the design of that. In fact, Kurt has made some comparisons that I'll go over, and it won't be, hopefully be more pedestrian friendly, but not constrained to the degree that Broadway is being. Broadway is just, it's kind of we made it to be the living room of Estacada. And so it is much more constrained than Main Street would be. Any questions so far before I keep going? Okay.
Mine's more of a statement than a question.
Uh-huh.
I think as a group, such as we are, we should all be involved in championing the Main Street project. I think we all, as you well know, more is better.
Right.
Information is the key here. I mean, we had a few times during the Broadway communication session of, people asking, well, are we going to close down sidewalks during that? Are we not? How are they going to get to our businesses? And we said, oh, don't worry, we have a small gateway here. It'll all be fine. And it didn't turn out that way, but we got through it in one piece. And everybody, but they were a little upset at the end of that. And I think if we all step up and be a part of this process and give them positive feedback and show them the way, we'll have a lot better outcome on this. And I want us to try to concentrate on that rather than be, the other way.
Right.
So that's all I had to say on that.
Okay.
Anybody have some other stuff to feed into this? Oh,
I support your thoughts, Mayor, on that as well too, especially from a business standpoint, that we can go around visiting the businesses, letting them know, absolutely, and getting the community input. I think things are on the right track there. What you're thinking there, Melanie.
And I think, Paul, you more than anybody, because you do have a business on Main Street, would be a good champion as far as that's concerned, to let people know that you are very on board with this.
Yeah.
Well, so.
Yeah, I've been talking with a lot of folks already, just trying to plant that seed, getting them thinking about it.
That's helpful. Yeah. And I want to get out there right away so that it's not like, oh, next month we're starting this, they have plenty of time to think about it. And it's the things we learned from Broadway is that, don't overpromise, don't say, okay, this is a good plan. This is how we're going to do it, because you don't really know till you get a contractor on board and they get going. And so we can't, be careful how we say that it's all going to be okay, because it's probably going to be very painful. I'll just tell you, it's going to seem 10 times as long as it actually is. And, but we need to, have the things we can do, which is good signage, good communication, good updates. We had an outreach committee that we worked with last time, and maybe this wants to be the group that's our outreach committee, or we could pull some other people into, and then here, I'll just kind of go to jump into the schedule for an open houses. I was hoping to do some in May, to start right away in May, maybe do one in the evening, have an online presence where people can also just look at the plan and give us some feedback online if they can't come down to City Hall, and then maybe do one in a morning or an afternoon for different schedules. I'm not sure if you have any ideas on that, or
I think evenings are always better, considering a lot of us.
It seems
work,
like
so
for
it's
the
really
most part.
hard,
Okay.
to make an afternoon unless we reschedule our workplaces. So
Okay.
preferably evenings would be good.
Okay.
I think Jerry is.
I think so.
Oh yeah.
Yeah. Okay. All right. So we'll kind of aim at the evenings, and then get out to talk to businesses during the day and just be brief, so we're not being too intrusive to them, but just keep taking them information that they can read. And yeah, Joel?
I was just going to make sure that since we're trying to get out to the community, we want to make sure that we're not just focusing on the immediate local community, but anyone that kind of comes through here. As far as like, what I mean by people that live in the area as well.
Right.
So we, like in the city, we have water bill capabilities. We have people on Facebook, but a large majority of those people don't use online communications, or are they not within the water district. So we want to see if we can figure out ways to let them know as well. So that might be something to brainstorm
with our partners, such as the school district,
Right.
the churches, getting the word out. Newspaper areas that
That's
we are
good.
doing this.
The newspaper, yeah, the school district has a far reach with their the newsletters they send out, or the little announcements.
Yep.
Okay, great. And then during construction, I'd like to do, we did maybe like once a month or every 3 weeks or something, we did a meeting that people could come and get a construction update. And so I think we'll probably have to up that a little bit. And if only even just a couple people come, if we're just here for an hour, staff can be here to answer questions. And, it might be a crowd or it might be just a few people, but if it's consistent, I think people will know that they can attend. Yeah, Joel?
Something we might be able to consider. I actually learned this from Williston, North Dakota, when I used to live up there. When they do some of their bigger city projects, they actually would use a construction camera that you could tune into online and see the progress of it as you're going through. Plus, it also made some pretty cool footage when they recorded it for later for the city to use for its for different advertisements and stuff. And but basically, we're right here on Main Street. We could hook one right up here to the building and just set something up, have buy the gig, set something up where people can publicly come in and see the camera or something and to see what's going on. On Main Street and watched its development over time.
That'd be pretty fun.
I think on the first time that I go around where we did with Broadway, the one complaint that I saw more than any other was signage.
Yes.
Letting people know what's going on and giving them maybe a board that shows them the project as a whole, so they can kind of look at it, they can see what's going to happen. It puts less stress on city staff and other people if we've got something out there that does that.
Right. I think even people walking into the banks and walking into the grocery store were asking a lot of questions, and those people didn't know anything about it. And so that's a good point. Getting little flyers out that people could pick up at different businesses.
That outside audience that we're getting on 224. They're coming from outside the area. Maybe they want to know what we're up to in little Estacada, so they get a board to go by and kind of get it. And probably have a number and a website they can go to find out more about that.
Can we just plant one right out here on this, a board right there on the street?
Yeah. Okay, we could, and maybe something out in front of City Hall. Okay, I will see what we could do with that. All right, just because I don't want to run us out of time. Talking about the design, I included that in your packet, the preliminary design, but I kind of wanted to just run over a few things. Choices that Kurt said that we would be able to ask people about is diagonal parking or no diagonal parking. He said that Broadway has 12-foot sidewalks and then 15 feet of diagonal parking and then 13 feet travel lanes, which is really narrow. This will be probably 8-foot sidewalks, which I have to double check on that because I thought we had to have 10 feet, but he said he was going to cut it back to 8-foot sidewalks, especially where if we want the diagonal parking, up on the only place we can really do that well is between 3rd and 4th on this side of the street. So he said, let's see, 8-foot sidewalk, 16-foot diagonal parking instead of 15-foot, so an extra foot, and then 20-foot travel lanes. So that would be a travel and a bike lane together. If we wanted a travel lane and a bike lane separate, then it would cut that down. But considering that there's not a tremendous amount of bike traffic down here, probably just having the sharrows and having a nice wide travel lane, I'm guessing is what probably people are going to prefer. Yeah. Okay. But those are kind of things, those are the kind of questions that we'll ask them. The accent rings at the intersections. Do people like those, or is that something we can cut out and save some money? Yeah, Joel.
Sorry, quick question for you. The diagonal parking here, or whatever parking we do,
Mm-hmm.
one of the things that I think, because like, again, we're rural town, people have big trucks and things. We
Mm-hmm.
want to make sure we take in those consideration, the length of the trucks and the width of the trucks.
Okay.
So we basically, if you don't want to stop them too close, because this kind of painful.
Yeah.
And I think something we should focus on too, that we didn't on Broadway as much, is the handicap accessibility.
Yes.
Okay.
When we put the handicap access slots in, we only went one side of the street,
Mhm.
which, you know, as well as I do, for somebody to cross an intersection that might be longer on this street in particular, it'd be
Mhm.
very difficult. And I want us to really focus on making sure that we equal out the handicap accessible lots on both sides. And then entryways. If you'll notice the gas station, there's an entryway on 4th Street and there's one on Main Street. But the one on 4th Street is very dangerous because a car
Yes.
comes in and automatically cuts across. Well, people coming down 4th Street don't see him.
Right.
Boom, you got an accident problem. So maybe monitoring how many open areas we have for the cars to get in off of Main Street so that we don't have that 4th Street issue going forward.
Yeah, that's one thing that I'm sure that Kurt will be looking at is where the entrances are. Yep. Paul?
One thing I've got asked quite a bit about are stop signs.
Okay.
Being thrown in at 4th and Main as well too. Is that something that's going to be tossed out to the public or considered as well too?
That is not a topic that has come up when I've talked to Kurt, but we could, I mean, I don't know, it's kind of our through street. And so it would be the give and take of, you want to keep it going through, or do we just need more like the flashy lights when a pedestrian wants to cross to make it easier for them to cross, or do we really want to stop traffic? There was a kid who got in an accident here because he'd just come through a 4-way stop, and he came up to this stop and waited for the car to get on Main Street coming right up. And then as soon as it was right there, it went because he thought it was a 4-way stop, and it wasn't a 4-way stop. And so, there's little situations like that where it might be confusing from one street to the next. So, and we could ask what standards are for that. And
I understand there used to be one there. Is that right?
oh, did there used to be?
A long
I
time
don't-
ago,
I
there
don't
was one
remember
there. It was way back.
You remember?
I'm trying to
ever being
remember when I
there?
remember that one.
Denise, I'm throwing Denise's name out as
Okay.
the authority here, but I talked with Denise about it. I thought she had mentioned that, but then it was removed with a reason as well too. So there's a
Mhm.
reason it's not there, but
Yeah,
It's
I
come
can't-
up
I can't
again.
ever remember there being a.
Yeah, I don't know if there was, but that's something that we could ask about and see, whether a stop sign is a good option or the
That might be just-
pedestrian flag. We're still looking at pedestrian flashing lights for at 3rd that I think Dawn's working on getting some of those. Okay, yeah.
The one thing, oh, sorry.
Oh, it's okay. One thing I was just thinking of as we were talking about as we're crossing Main Street is just, let's also consider visibility, because a lot of times, even if the bus is parked here or you've got cars parked in front of you, trees or
Mhm.
something, when you're trying to pull out, you've got to really pull out and to make sure you're not going to get hit by a car that's coming down, or so it can get just visibility as you're trying to cross the street
Okay.
of Main Street.
For cars and pedestrians.
Yeah, so I mean, I like what you're saying about the flashers for the pedestrians. That will be good, and it may just be where cars can then use that opportunity to go with the pedestrian or
Mhm.
something like that.
Okay.
My only thought was maybe they pull the stop sign because potential backup traffic to be blocking the road where fire department has to
Mhm.
get out. That's the only thing I could think of from that area, but something that we want to make sure that's not going to affect them at all.
Okay.
So if we put a stop sign there.
Okay. Perfect. Yeah. Good suggestion.
Any more to add?
Okay.
No?
Okay, then just real quickly, so we can wrap up here and give you a couple minutes of a break, the timeline. We're thinking that I want to get going on the public outreach in May so that we can give good feedback to Kurt to finish the design this summer. So probably by early fall, he'd have the construction drawings done so we could go out to bid at the end of the year, which is typically a good time. Well, we say it's a good time because our CDBG projects from the county that are supposed to get done in the summer never go out to bid till like December or January. And there was like, oh, it's a good time to bid it though, because the costs are, everybody wants work in the middle of the winter. So we get a better price, which could be true. So we probably bid it towards around the end of the year so they could start and get it done early in the year before we have, I know the small businesses down here, their money months that have to carry them through the rest of the year are once the weather gets nice, you know, that May, June, July, August, September, and then things kind of slow down again. At least that's how it has been in the past. So I would like to get it done, even though weather isn't always as favorable early in the year. I'd like to get it started as soon as possible after the first of the year, which probably means February, like do it February, March, April. And then have it ready to go for summer. So, and Kurt seemed to be amenable to that idea too, unless you guys have a tremendously different idea.
No, that sounds really good.
Okay.
And two, I want us to focus urban renewal dollars that we have left. It's a very big project and we really need to concentrate on making sure we have enough to accommodate this project. So we have to be really careful how we look at urban renewal in the next little while, because this project's on the next.
Yeah. And I have a meeting on Wednesday or Thursday with Business Oregon to kind of pick up where Matt left off, because he had kind of queued us up with them to get a loan to do this project. And then I'll see what they say. And then also at some point, we'll come back with like, this is what our financial, well, we're going into budget season too. So we'll have, this is what our financial update is coming out to you guys so that, you know, we have a sufficient amount sitting there waiting for this type of a project, not to do the whole project, but we have a good fund balance at this point, and we have enough to do this project and some more, but I don't know like where do you cut it out? Okay, if that's the last project we can do. So that's going to take probably a little more finesse and not just eyeballing it like I've been doing. But we'll have somebody coming on board to fill Matt's position in the next couple months, and probably they'll be better at spreadsheets than me. Yeah.
Thank you, Mayor. One last question is the diagonal parking on the which I'm guessing is like the west side of the street there, basically where it's at on here. Is that specifically in that side for a reason, or would it can it be altered the other way?
The one that's like on that end of the street, or
yeah, it's the one that's between Fourth and Third.
Yeah, it was on that side of the street because there's not, in fact, Kurt kind of addressed that in the email that he sent me, in that based on the amount of driveways and where driveways are located, because we have a lot of drive-in type business here. He says we could probably put a couple more up here in front of the bus stop if we wanted to, but pretty much this side of the street, City Hall side of the street, between Third and Fourth, like on the other side of Clackamas River Growlers, that's a nice long stretch of where we could put some.
My only question was because people like to fly down that hill, and having extra vehicles that stick out a little ways could potentially be a disaster.
Yeah, I feel that, like even backing out, if I park at the pharmacy pickup window, and then you've got people coming around the corner off Second and people coming down the hill. So that is a good thing to consider.
Yeah, if we could think about that ahead of time, we might be able to ward off at least. I mean, I don't think we've had any maybe accidents that way, but nonetheless, it's still a stressful point. We can find
too, if we concentrate on not narrowing the street as much as we did Broadway. I mean, that is key here.
Right, because this is their through street. Yeah. Okay, so that's kind of
marching orders.
work on the financing. We'll get the public outreach scheduled and aim at having some feedback to Kurt and get that engineering done and move forward. Yay.
All right, it's exciting stuff. We are at the next citizen and community group comment. We have a few citizens in here. Anything related to urban renewal? Would anybody like to speak? No? Okay, we'll move right along. Board member comments. Do any of you have anything before we leave? No? All right. We appreciate everybody tonight and this meeting, and appreciate staff for putting it together. Thank you.
Thank you.
And I will adjourn this meeting. We've got about 5 minutes. So anything